Pleased to be joined now by Bills COO Pete Guelli, who the last time you were here, this was St. John Fisher College. now it's a university status, among other things. I mean, you know, the head coach isn't Dick Geron anymore because that's who was head coach the last time you were around. Did you kind of walk down here and kind of marvel at what's different? Because this stadium wasn't here either.
Yeah, no, I think it started on the thruway on the way down because it really was my first trip to Rochester since I've been back. And very, surreal driving down, a lot of memories kind of flooding back. And then you get on campus, you're like, wow, this is what's been kind of gratifying is that we built this with an eye towards the future and saying this is where training camps are going, and it's really stood up. So there's been a lot of great changes. It's evolved considerably, but it's still here. And it's still a great fan experience, and it's still great for the football team.
There is a movement around the league because even over at One Bills Drive, the facility's so good that you could have a training camp there. But the problem is once they're off the field and once they're out of the weight room and out of the training room and the meeting room and the classrooms, and that's where training camp is. It's off the field and in the meeting rooms where guys hang out all the time, 24/7. That really training camp is what it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, and I had breakfast with Sean this morning, and that's exactly what he brought up. That's what he loves about camp, and especially when you're always integrating new faces, whether it's on the coaching staff, scouting staff, players, to get them away, bring them here where everybody can kind of bond collectively. And it's the same thing on the business side, to get everybody away, and then you're ready. By the time you get back, you're really kind of raring to go. So I was on the other side of that in New York. We had camp at the facility, there were some economies, and it made sense for some reasons. But I'm like Sean. I love this setup. It's great. Rochester is really important to our business model. So to come here every year and do this impacts our organization in a number of ways.
It's like the old saying: you have a lot of good families go camping together because you kind of survive it together, right? I mean, you're out and away, and whatever problems come up, you got to solve it between the. It's just like this. You guys, you got to get along.
You're sitting down at the lunch table, you're passing each other in the hallway, you're going out at night doing things together. It's different than when you're there. You get so distracted sometimes when you're at the facility. This eliminates a lot of those distractions. And I love the environment from day one, and it's even better now.
So back then, regionalizing the franchise was a necessity, not a priority. It was a necessity, and this was a big step in doing that. Now you've got a new stadium on the horizon. Is that the current step that we're taking now, or is there something else that might be off in the distance? I'm not trying to put extra work on you, Pete, but like down the line here, what do you think the next iteration of that might be?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why I'm here. We talked about what's the long-term plan for both of these franchises. How do you make them sustainable in this marketplace, and how do you continue to grow and be successful? So that's a big part of it. But Rochester is still a priority. It will continue to be a priority. It's so close, and Buffalo's a small market, so this regionalization thought process that started way back when is still critically important. Now it's like, what's the next frontier? We're thinking through a lot of that right now, Chris. There's a lot of kind of iterative processes happening, looking at how we should be set up, looking at where we should be investing, but everything is towards the long-term future of this organization.
I know this may be a premature question, but how does this new stadium and the new facility impact all of that stuff in the future? Because you can build it any way you want, right? And how is that going to change that dynamic?
I think it's a game changer. It's a state-of-the-art facility in a market like Buffalo. It's the most, I think it's the biggest investment from a construction perspective in that city ever. So, to be able to transition into a building like that, and this brand has already elevated beyond local, regional, and now it's a national and international brand. Now we've got a facility that complements that. So what are those opportunities to continue to grow and build off of that? It's the next step. Look, when I was here, initially, and we brought camp here, there were a lot of questions about whether the Bills would even be in Buffalo. I think those have been answered.
Yeah. I'll say this too, that about this stadium thing, and what is the vision for, if there is any? Because I'm an old guy. This is the next to the last season in Highmark, in the old one. So you got to think there's some sad goodbyes going to come when that building shut those lights out for the last time.
We've got a kind of a committee in place, and we're working through what does that transition look like, because my position has been the last year that stadium, the current stadium, needs to be celebrated almost like an anniversary in some ways. Like, there's a lot of great moments that took place in that building. We need to find ways to celebrate, transition, and then get people excited about the next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. Closing this chapter the right way is really important. We have a whole group working on that right now.
Right.
Fortunately for me, I just came out of creating a strategy around the 100th season for the Giants.
Right.
And ton of equity, and how do you do that the right way? So there's a lot of learnings in that process that we're looking at as part of this transition out of that building into the new one.
Right. And then just to give fans an update on the current stadium, because I know you really had to sink your teeth into that quickly once you got your feet on the ground here in Orchard Park. Where is the progress? Where would you peg the progress to kind of put it in layman's terms for the fans? I know the construction guys did benefit from a mild winter, as I understand it, so that was good.
They did. The phrase is comfortably on schedule. Everything's moving. You guys are over there. You see it. There's so much steel coming out of the ground, and now the precast is being laid. If you go in there, it looks like a stadium now. So it feels like we're getting close.
You can see the lower bowl almost done.
Everything's moving in the right direction. It's definitely going to be ready to go, and everything you see, it's built for Buffalo. We're never going to lose the character of what makes this team important, and that's being in Buffalo. That's an important part of the whole process. So I've been spending a lot of time with our construction folks and our design folks to make sure that everything is trending in the right direction. And it is. It looks great. The hardest thing about celebrating the old stadium is all the Steve Tasker highlights. Like, there's just too many of them. So we're trying to find room for all the other guys, but there's just too many Tasker highlights.
It's extremely important, however, though. You still make sure you fit those in, all 20 seconds of it.
We'll find room for those.
Right, yeah sure. Give us an idea now, like today. Training camp starts. You guys are on this quest that you've been on. This is your first one back, getting your teeth into it. What are some of your, job one things once this thing kicks off in September?
Well, I think first here, a lot of it's been more, hey, how do you kind of go into discovery mode? We obviously doing a lot of great things. The way the Bills have grown since I left, how great the team is, and how it's kind of transcended the market. There's a million great things going on. Having left and worked in the NBA for 10 years, where we do things a little bit differently, and running an arena, then going to the Giants and working for that big brand. What can we take from there to potentially layer on to the success that this team has already had? So a lot of it is more observation mode. First day at camp, like, I didn't set it up. I just got here, and I love what I see right now. So what's the next step here? But that's basically been the process for everything that we're doing. Let's look at what we're doing, and let's find ways to improve it.
Yeah. And, Pete, how are you dividing your time? Because you share almost an identical role on the Sabres side of the house, too. So I'm sure that was an adjustment for you also, because I don't know if you've had two titles simultaneously of this magnitude. So how have you kind of navigated that? I'm sure it's still being navigated, but how are you kind of working your way through that to divide your time as equally as possible?
My wife, Patty, would probably say not well, because I'm not home as much as I would like to be. But you know what? It's been great. I've been almost splitting it equally. I've been doing, a couple days with the Bills, a couple days with the Sabres, using Friday as more of a swing day. And then if it takes nights and weekends for a while to get it all figured out, we will. So it's, there's a lot, but I don't think you can be more excited and energized for a job to come back home and do something like this. And you've got these aspirational projects going on with the stadium, and then there's all the exciting things that Terry and the family want to do around the arena. Just to be a part of something like that, there's no lack of energy when you get up in the morning to attack it. And fortunately, great teammates. You can't do this on your own. It's not possible. So there's some really talented people on the ground at both places, and we're trying to figure out, how was everyone, not just mine, how was everybody's time best spent to put these organizations in the best position as possible.
And then bridging connections, because every organization has this. You have a business side of the house, and you have a football or hockey side of the house. But once the season starts, football doesn't have as much time to give, to maybe lend itself to formulating and strengthening those bonds. So how do you work around that schedule once the season gets going, so you don't lose any ground, I guess, so to speak, in kind of strengthening that bond and building that bridge, so it's sustainable going forward?
Yeah, well, you hit on it. I don't think there's any more important aspect of this than organizational alignment. And that's not just football. That's not just business. That's together.
Right.
And it's all about relationships. I'm fortunate. I knew Brandon a little bit before I came here through Joe Shane, and Sean's been amazing since I've gotten here, like out of his way to come include me in things and get me involved in things. So it's all about that. And I think I always understand. Look, football's first, but we're also running a business. So how do we work together to make sure that what we're doing is in the best interest of everybody? And I think the best operations have that credible alignment across the organizations, where they're building this performance culture. It's a meritocracy. Everybody does well. Everybody succeeds. Everybody benefits from it. and it's on both sides of the organization. But if you're constantly communicating, to me, that's the key.
It's got to be fun to come back because, this, like you said, this brand has exploded over the last handful of years. It's internet. We get calls from literally 37 or 38 states, on our phone system, and we get emails from every state, other countries. To be a part of these two franchises that are so energetic, and it gives us an idea. I know the Bills, the new stadium, the building we're in at One Bills Drive, the field house, and the business. It's like an anthill that's been kicked, man. Mm-hmm. Everybody is busy. It's really high energy. And you got to – I was just thinking, when the football season starts and the hockey season overlaps, you're not going to sleep.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, it means more. I don't know, you were here. Steve, like playing in this market, working in this market, it's something different. So I've been other places. I've had a chance to experience other organizations, and they're all great. But there's something special about Buffalo, and there's something special about doing it where you're from. It's hard to articulate, and winning means more, when it's your hometown. And, that's what it is for me, and especially with both teams. And the Bills are obviously in a great place. Sabres, I think we're trending in the right direction and bringing Lindy back. There's a lot of excitement around the team that didn't exist before. And you can only imagine if both these teams are performing at a high level, what this city will be like.
I don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like.
The roof's going to come off this place.
I don't know what it's like in other cities or other franchises, but I know this in Buffalo with the Sabres and the Bills. Probably a larger percentage of the staff members are people who grew up here, like you.
Yeah. Well, I've been small markets, medium markets, large markets. This is without a doubt the most provincial sports town in the U.S.
Very much.
Without a doubt. So, I mean, it just, again, that's what it goes back to. Like, people are so passionate, the fan avidity is off the scale.
Yeah.
So, how do you take advantage of that? And that was kind of the point with the new stadium. You want to make sure you build it in a way that you can capitalize on that. I came back for our game with the Giants this past year, and I walked into that stadium like, I can't believe that it's still like this. This atmosphere was incredible, and now transition that over to a new stadium. How do you potentially level that up? But you can't recreate what's going on here in any other market.
Right.
Southern Ontario, I remember back then with the original regionalization plan, was a part of it. Where does the Southern Ontario market kind of stand going forward with this franchise? Because I know they represent a fair portion of the season ticket base. So what's the outlook for that region per se?
Yeah, look, if I had my office whiteboard behind me, you'd see a laundry list of things, and you'd see Toronto somewhere near the very top. It's important. Not unlike Rochester. We've got to keep looking at these other markets and determining how they can help us grow. When you put Buffalo and Toronto together, you've got one of the bigger markets, in North America. So you've got to find a way to leverage that. So we're early stages of planning. There's been some great work done up there before, and as you mentioned, there's already a foundation. But the goal now is to build on that.
Yeah. Pete, thanks for pumping in the energy to both franchises. It's great to see you back.
Hopefully you can feel it, man. I couldn't be more excited to
right,
be part of this
we can,
thing.
and you're right. I am really excited about the new spot over there that in 2027 they'll be over there. 2026, actually, they'll be over there, right?
2026
season. And it's going to be special. I think it will be different. Everybody always asks me, like I've been there once, right? Yeah. It is going to be different than this old stadium. But I think they're going to love it even more. There's going to be more reasons to love the new place. There's going to be more things to do. It's going to be our own. I mean, it's going to be different. It's going to be an adjustment period. But man, oh man, I think people are absolutely going to just go crazy.
I think Bills fans deserve a facility like
they're
that.
They're going to be crazy.
Like I said, it's fun to be a part of. It's amazing what ownership is committed to in this marketplace. And I think they're going to be blown away when that thing's open.
Yeah.
And obviously we need to get you over there again if you've only been there once. So we'll get you guys back in there.
Sounds good.
It's great.
All right, that's Bills COO Pete Guelli joining us here.